In this video, I'm going to show you how to get the best out of a voiceover during a directed session. Hi, my name's Chris, and I'm a voiceover who's worked in commercials,
The all-new BMW X3, on a mission.
in corporate projects,
Every single moment of our lives is powered by energy. Our future depends on its future.
and in video games.
It has been amusing watching your sea-racked corpses stumble and dodder as you tracked the prey.
When you take the time to organise a directed session, either remotely or in person in a studio with a voiceover, then it's important that you use that time as effectively as possible. So in this video, I'm going to give you 12 tips to ensure that the voiceover and yourself are best prepared to get the most out of the session that you possibly can. And by the way, this video will be mainly dealing with corporate, narration and commercial direction, but a lot of it also applies to video games. But I will be doing a separate video about directing a video game session as well, so look out for that. So let's get started with my 12 tips on how to best direct a voiceover in a live session. Tip number 1, read the script yourself. Read it out loud, most importantly. Make sure that it sounds as if it makes sense, that the grammar is all absolutely correct, and obviously that it fits the timings of whatever spot it's supposed to. Be sure to have a clear idea about how certain words might be pronounced. For example, if you say our company as opposed to our company, then it's a lot more formal as a result, and these are decisions that really should be made prior to a session rather than during it. Or at least you're aware, and then you can record an alternate. Tip 2. Clarify pronunciations. Whether or not that's a person's name, whether it's a company name, which is always very, very important, or whether or not it's an abbreviation of some sort. A voice actor might need to practice these pronunciations again and again in their own time prior to a session, so the sooner that they get all of that information, the better. Tip 3. Think about how you're going to divide the session before you actually get to it. You're going to spend 10 to 15 minutes chatting about the approach that you want to take with the script before you actually record. How many takes do you ideally want? And are there alternate takes that you have in mind? Thinking about these things in advance will ensure that there's a good balance between productivity and creativity in terms of different alternate takes you can make. And if you've never directed a voice session before, then why not ask the voice actor themselves how they would normally conduct a session and take their lead? Tip 4. Have an agreed way of marking takes, either verbally or technically in some way. In commercial sessions especially, where you've got a lot more time to do a small amount of text, that usually means that you do a lot more takes as a result, and you need to have a system in place to ensure that you don't get lost. So if it's marking takes verbally before you do each take, or whether it's actually putting it down on a piece of paper, make sure that something is in place so that you don't get lost in the edit. Tip 5. What is the status? By that I mean, whether it's B2B or B2C, what is the actual status of the person speaking and the audience that they're speaking to? It's really good to have some very clear variables which you can play throughout different takes. So if you give the speaker a status of 1 to 10 and the audience a status of 1 to 10, then you've got some clear things to play with. Tip 6. Give the voiceover a clear role. Are they the educator? Are they the parent? Are they the best friend or the next door neighbour? If you talk to a voiceover in terms of their role as opposed to how they should sound, then they've got something a lot more tangible to be able to creatively respond to. Tip number 7. Share reference materials. Whether it's a soundtrack, whether or not it's a particular read from another commercial or corporate project. These are a fantastic shorthand to make sure that you and the voiceover are on the same page. Tip 8. Be clear about who is giving the direction. In a directed session, it might be one-on-one, you might have an audio engineer, or you might have an end client or multiple end clients on the line as well. If this is the case, though multiple inputs are always welcome, ensure that you operate as the filter to the voiceover, otherwise they might get conflicting direction and become confused. Obviously, people in the creative team might have very different takes on how a particular word or sentence is said, but you need to be the arbitrator in the process, so that the voiceover isn't put on the spot, having to choose between one or another direction to do next. Tip 9. Be specific as possible in your direction. Terms like conversational are both incredibly popular but also extremely vague. If you can talk in terms of the voiceover's perspective and their emotional state and the audience's emotional state, then that gives us a lot more stimulus to be able to work from. Tip 10. Avoid line reading unless it's absolutely necessary. Time is money, so if you need to make a line reading, then ultimately that's absolutely fine. But preface it by saying, I want to try some line readings if that's okay, rather than subtly inferring that they're getting it wrong. Step 11. Ask the voiceover to do one take for them. At the end of a session, hopefully, you have everything that you need. But if you do have the time, then it's useful to invite the voiceover to just read the whole script straight through from start to finish. The benefit of this approach is that the notes that they got at the start of a session will have had time to bed down in their subconscious, and now they'll be invited to just give it a natural flow. It's essentially a free hit, but you might be pleasantly surprised by the results. And finally, tip 12, be very clear about the delivered format. By that I mean, do you want the whole session or do you want edited takes? Do you want it raw or do you want the audio processed in some kind of way? How do you want the different files labelled and what kind of file do you actually need? If you have an audio engineer present, then they may already be able to supply all the answers. But if not, make sure that the voiceover knows exactly what it is that you need so that there's no confusions further down the line. Okay, so that's my 12 tips to get the most out of a directed session with a voiceover. If you found this video useful and are interested in more content like this, then by all means, please subscribe. I'll be aiming to upload every week or two. Thank you for taking the time to check out this video, which I'm sure is very rough around the edges, and also to Honey, my cat, who has been asleep all this time. Have a great day, and see you soon.